Welcome to Denver Gazette Sports Podcast. I am your host, Chris Schmaedeke, and today we are brought to you by Applewood Plumbing, Heating, and Electric. They have been serving Denver residents for 50 years. They are the proud sponsor of this podcast and the proud sponsor of the Colorado Avalanche, which we are talking about today with Kyle Fredrickson. Kyle, have you just kind of put it all together what MacKinnon did last night? We're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I would say it was the most hats that I've seen for a hat trick celebration, just pure volume, right? And that shows you, I mean, of many things that signify MacKinnon's night, that's the excitement of the building. Anyone in that place who had a hat on wanted to throw it out there because the energy that he was creating and the way that the Avs stormed back from a 2-2 game to just totally dominate in the second period. And MacKinnon really stating his claim as a true Hart Trophy frontrunner. And to me, in my mind, watching that game, and it's something that Jared Bednar said afterwards, it almost just seemed like there was an extra burst. Like, MacKinnon's always playing on like that fast forward mode, but it just seemed like on a couple of those rushes, he was so determined. He was so much quicker than those wild defensemen. And then he made it just look so easy. So for him to cross that 50 goals mark, for a guy who hasn't relished in a lot of his numbers this year and all the history he's making, you could tell MacKinnon really enjoyed getting to that milestone. He told reporters after the game, he honestly thought he was never going to reach 50 goals in an NHL season. Now, maybe that's being a little bit humble, but I did sense sort of this disbelief a little bit when he told us, just saying the number out loud. So an incredible season for Nate. This is a night when you look back at his year that he's had that people are going to talk about and remember. No underwear on the ice this time. If you remember last time for the hat trick,
yes.
There was a bra that ends up out there. So, maybe people are, keeping on some of their clothes, but, people are going nuts for this guy. I mean, MVP chants, that are just like what Nikola Jokic has been hearing for years with the Nuggets. We're seeing that really pick up with Nate, kind of the home crowd buying into this thing. So, yeah, just an incredible performance and one the Avs needed, right? Because coming into this game, it was consecutive losses. It was we're not playing defense the right way. Really seemed like the Avs figured out a lot of things against the Wild, winning 5-2 last night.
How many hat tricks is that this year for them? So Nate's had
So,
two, right?
So number three for Nate. So yeah, Nate's had 3 hat tricks. I'm trying to think if anyone else on the roster
Did
has.
Makar have one this year?
Yeah, I was gonna say Makar had his first career one, so that would have been the one more. I don't think that Mikko's had one. I know Mikko's had it in the past, but I want to say those are the only guys who've done it recently. A lot of guys with 2-goal games this season, including Jonathan Drouin, who continues to be such a bright spot for this team. But when they score in bunches. And, when you're a little bit shaky defensively and this Avs team isn't perfect, you can cover up a lot of holes when you go on scoring bursts like this. And what a time to do it. A couple more games to see if the Avs can keep that momentum rolling. But, playoffs are almost here.
Before we jump to, kind of where the Avs are at and with MacKinnon and everything, Mikko's concussion, Bednar's kind of, day to day, but he's out there skating, it seems like.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a real possibility we could see Mikko on Saturday. The Avs have this nice break before their next game against the Jets. He was skating in a red non-contact jersey at morning skate the other day. That's a good sign. He's with the group at least. But I do think over, several more days here, there's a real opportunity for him to rejoin the group. The Avs aren't going to mess around with concussions. They have a long history of them with Bowen Byram, Cale Makar last year. But it sure seems like this is a situation where Mikko passed some initial testing very quickly. So he was on the ice, the next day after getting pulled out of that game by the concussion spotter. So to me, this feels like a situation where he's in the protocol as more of a precaution than anything. He's still got to clear some of those benchmarks. But yeah, they need to have him back, especially on Saturday for such a huge game.
How was that hit not penalized?
It's a good question. I get confused sometimes, when a guy isn't capable of defending himself, to me, that feels like a penalty, right? Like in that situation, Mikko gets hit up high. He's not expecting the contact, and there's no way to defend that. I would say in that scenario, I think it was Matthias Ekholm who hit him. It didn't seem like there was ill intent, right? It was like an errant elbow. He's finishing a check. He's finishing a play. Even Jared Bednar said he watched the replay after the game and he felt like it was just a regular hockey play. But that just shows you how vicious this game is, right?
Yeah.
When a hit like that is just sort of seemed like, all right, this is just what we expect. The good news is what could have been a catastrophic issue for the Avs if Mikko, was out for a long time, now becomes, a non-issue if he's back quickly.
Real quick, Kyle's cat has joined us.
Yeah, this is Charlie. He has some analysis. He'll chime in later, though. Yeah.
But where was I going with that? But so, like you said, the Avs needed that win last night. They had struggled. They struggled in Edmonton. They got blown out 6-2. The Dallas game was ugly. Real chance for them to kind of take, try to get back to that top spot in the Central. That's probably out of the question now. I think we're looking probably at that 2-3 slot. But the hot topic was goalie. And we're going to talk about that now. There was some panic, about Georgiev,
Sure.
but this team trusts him and he is the number one guy. And there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because, I mean, on paper, Georgiev is one of the best goalies in the league. He leads the NHL in wins with 38. He was an all-star. But some of the other metrics and the numbers aren't always so great. I mean, his save percentage right now is below .900, which is, not where you necessarily want to be as a goalie. His goals against average is 2.95, which is under 3, which is pretty solid. But I think it was just sort of this microcosm of the team not playing well and all of a sudden, opponents racking up, big goal totals on this guy. I mean, in a couple of losses when you got 6 goals against, that's going to make fans wonder, hey, is this guy ready for the playoffs? Especially when Justus Annunen is playing so well behind him, right? I think if Annunen isn't on this bit of a surge right now as the backup who's solidifying that role, people sort of just see this as, all right, Georgiev's got to work through this before the playoffs start. But it kind of created a scenario where he was facing some tough questions and Jared being asked whether or not, his all-star goaltender would start the playoffs. It was just sort of a weird scenario, but I do think that last night's game was a good showcase of why he has that trust. There's that shaky first period where the Avs have a couple of penalties and the Wild score on back-to-back power plays, right? I mean, those are scenarios. Yeah, Georgiev wants to make saves, but he's undermanned. The next 2 periods, shutout hockey. The guy plays phenomenal. It helps when Nathan MacKinnon is sucking the air out of the building like he did. But Georgiev has been a resilient guy who finishes games a lot stronger than he starts them sometimes. And if you're going to have to choose between that or the opposite, you'll take that, right? You'd rather that, than have a guy who's going to, be strong early in games and then struggle late. That's when you point to the goaltender and said, hey, that's the reason you lost. So, yeah, I think the only real way that we see Justus Annunen in the postseason is if Georgiev has like a 2-game breakdown where he's really struggling and it seems like he needs a night off, or if he's injured. Other than that, it feels like this is Georgiev's net and he's earned it. He's a confident guy even through some of these struggles. The one thing I will say, he's still pretty emotional after goals against. He's slamming his stick. He's whipping the puck out. I think even his teammates would maybe like to see him chill out on that, if only just to help, their psyche and not give the opponent even a little bit of an inch of saying, hey, we're in this guy's head. Because stuff like that's going to matter in the playoffs when that intensity is just at an all-time high. I mean, if Georgiev is tripping out about goals right now, how is he going to be, late in a series in round 2 in Dallas, or when the stakes are even higher? So a lot to like about his performance. But like I said before, no real panic about this goaltending situation. If anything, the Avs should feel pretty comfortable going into the playoffs.
Well, I think people need to realize that he's not going anywhere. He's signed at least, I think it's a 3-year deal. Yeah, 3-year deal. Like he's their guy. Like they saw something in him. He's staying. And you and I were talking off air about how everybody loves the backup quarterback until it's time. Like that, I think that's a little bit of what's going on here. But how much is it? Like you talked about defensive breakdowns and stuff like that. Are they kind of a little leaky on the back end right now?
Yeah, I would say in general that this team, if they have one big negative, it's that lack of consistency on the defensive end and kind of getting ahead of themselves and playmaking at times. And even like Cale Makar and Devon Toews have been, victim of this at certain points of the season. So I do think that's one of the bigger concerns. On nights when they turn it on, it's noticeable how much more sound they are and how much fewer quality chances that Georgiev faces. I mean, in that Dallas loss, I think Bednar said that was among the worst games they've had all year in allowing opponents to have clean looks at the net.
Guys were just
So that
wide open in that game.
Right,
What was
exactly.
going on?
Right. It was so what is Georgiev going to do? And it was uncharacteristic of a team that had struggled, but yeah, so to see them bounce back like they did against the Wild, it shows it a lot. And the one thing that we should mention with MacKinnon is he kind of leads the bus on that as well. A lot of his offense that he created in that game against the Wild started on the forecheck, creating a loose puck, getting loose on the breakaway, just being ultra aggressive. That bleeds down to everyone else. And you need your top players to be playing like that to set that tone, especially when the team was struggling. So I know Bednar was thrilled to see that from MacKinnon, maybe more than anything else. I mean, he's used to the goal scoring, but to see him be as physical as he was and to create some of those chances through his defense, that's big for this team.
All right, so let's talk playoffs because they are fastly approaching. Avs have 3 games left. They're off till Saturday, and they play Winnipeg at home. Then a quick turnaround to Vegas for an afternoon game, which is a strange turnaround a little bit there.
Yeah, weird.
Then they don't
weird.
play again until Thursday. And then so a little bit of a weird schedule, but I mean, the game now is Saturday. They play Winnipeg. They're 2 points ahead of Winnipeg. Winnipeg does have a game in hand. Winnipeg has 4 games. Avs have 3 left. So I mean, this game Saturday is pretty much, it's huge. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's the end all be all probably for the standings in the long run.
Yeah, I do think that it's more than likely that the winner of this game gets home ice advantage in their matchup, right? I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to be Avs Jets. I mean, could be some things that change. I mean, if the Stars just absolutely tank the end of the year and the Avs win all their games, some wild stuff I think could still happen. I'm not sure how many points back there are at this moment. But yeah, it's going to be a huge game. The Avs are happy to be at home where they've been much better all season long. And that's also another reason to win the game, right? You're much rather be that number 2 than that number 3 in the Central, just because the Avs have struggled on the road this season. Winnipeg's a long road trip away from these guys, and it's not necessarily a favorite spot for media members. I don't even think
I was going to
for
say, how thrilled
traveling.
are you for that Winnipeg trip?
Yeah, it's gonna, I think our travel budget is gonna take a hit with that flight, even,
Yeah.
having to buy some of this a little bit last minute, not knowing when it's gonna happen. But I'm really looking forward to it. I love the afternoon games. It sort of lets the game breathe a little bit. It's gonna be an epic crowd. Then the Jets have one of the best goalies in the NHL and Connor Hellebuck. And I think that's really going to be the matchup people are watching. Can this high powered Avs offense crack this Jets team? And, the Jets have been a little inconsistent too to end the year. Both of these teams at one point were thought to maybe be able to win the Central, and the Dallas Stars sort of went out and took it. But yeah, to see these guys go at it's going to be great. And let's see if Georgiev can stack another quality performance in net, right? I would assume that he's going to get that chance to go again. They're going to be back-to-back games going to the Vegas Golden Knights the next night. Maybe that's when, or the next afternoon, that's when we see Annunen come in to give him a break. But yeah, I really can't wait for this matchup. And also just to see how MacKinnon follows up that performance, right? I just think as we get to the end of the year, he might not be telling us that he's cares all that much about the heart race, but his play shows us that, he wants to be the MVP.
Well, Vegas will need that game on Sunday too.
Right, exactly. Big game for Vegas, maybe even bigger than the Avs, just because they're still fighting for that wild card positioning at this point.
And the Jets have given up the least amount of goals in the league. So
yeah,
that
right.
shows how good. So you've already kind of touched on the Jets, but let's kind of look at, because it's probably going to be the matchup. And Dallas is a full 5 points ahead of the Avs, so it would really take a lot for the Avs to catch. Like you said, unless Dallas just tanks it, but I don't see that happening. I mean, unless they're not dying to play Vegas or LA in the first round, that's who they get. I don't know if that happens in the NHL like it does in the NBA. But Winnipeg's a big team. They're a physical team. The Avs are going to have their hands full in that series.
They are. I'm just looking at their stats right now. They've got 12 different players with at least 30 points this season. So you're talking about 4 lines of depth, big physical players, like you mentioned, a little bit of an older roster, just looking at some of the ages of these guys who are leading the team in points. And it's a hungry franchise, right? Like the Jets haven't experienced a lot of success in Winnipeg? Aren't they like the Atlanta Thrashers when they moved up there? I
Yeah, I
think
think so.
is how that transition worked. I read a great story in The Athletic as well about how their ticket revenue is struggling as well. So yeah, just to see them, be in a position where they want to this win a lot. They're hungry. They're sort of, reminiscent of an Avs team before they had all this success. And I'm also curious to sort of watch Sean Monahan versus Casey Middlestat, right?
Right.
Sean Monahan was a very coveted free agent forward that, or a guy in on that market that the Avs were interested in. Didn't get him. Winnipeg got him. Has been a big contributor for them so far, but I don't know if he's been any better than Casey Middlestat. But always kind of fun to play that what if game when you see these two guys go up against each other. But yeah, a fun matchup, and for me, just another chance to see Ball Arena at its best, right? Because even that game with MacKinnon and having the hat trick, it still doesn't compare to the energy of playoff hockey. It's just a whole different thing.
Well, Ball Arena is going to be pretty busy in the coming weeks, is for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, even this week, we had the Avs and Wild last night with the hat trick from MacKinnon. Tonight, the Timberwolves are in town to play the Nuggets for the battle for the top seed, and then Saturday, Winnipeg's here for the Jets and Avs. So even before the playoffs, it's going to be pretty exciting. Real quick before you go, I mean, the Stars have the Avs number a little. Well, I don't even want to say that, but do the Avs want to play the Stars in the playoffs? Probably not.
Probably not. It's funny you say that though, because it does feel like this inevitability that they're going to face each other in the second round.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just and to your point, they don't like each other. There's the playoff history. They're, the to me it seems like they just kind of trade heavyweight blows every time that they play. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know that the Avs want to face the Stars, but if they're going to win a cup, they're going to have to beat them,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's the big thing. You could look at sort of the other side in the West, and what the Canucks have done this season. I'm real curious to see if they're able to make some noise and really their first year as a real contender in a long time. And then out east, it's anyone's guess. I mean, all their wild card teams are still in play. I think there's 4 or 5 teams still fighting for 2 spots. Not necessarily as strong as the West, but yeah, certainly the Stars are going to be a big test. And I wouldn't want to face any of those wild card teams either. The Predators, they clinched a playoff spot. So, selfishly, I was hoping that would be the Avs' first round opponent, just to be able to go to Nashville. It's a
Yeah.
great food and culture city. But maybe down the line, those are two teams that end up facing each other. It feels like Nashville would have to have some upsets on that route. But yeah, that's the West is a gauntlet. I mean, there's no easy team that the Avs would want to play, and Bednar has said that much as well. And I will say, he was asked if, hey, it feels like the Jets are the opponent you're going to play. Do you guys start that scouting process now? And he was like, nope, we're just going to focus one game at a time because, these guys, a little bit cliche, but it's true in that they want to get home ice by winning their next game. And, if they started focusing on the Jets now, there's a whole lot of talented teams they'd be overlooking, including, facing the Oilers in the home finale. I mean, what a way to end the season with one more McDavid MacKinnon. That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, because I mean the Avs are going to need these 3 games probably. I mean they're going to need to get, what do you think, 4 of 6 points?
I think so. I think so. They getting that head to head against Winnipeg and denying them a couple points in that process would be really big. But yeah, I think 4 out of 6 is a logical number for them to get that home ice.
Well, the Jets have a trip to Dallas, and then they have the Avs on Saturday, and then they play Seattle and Vancouver at home. Vancouver doesn't really have much to play for because I don't think they can really catch the Stars either. But
Yeah.
that's a little different in hockey. And I'm sure Dallas is still that they could get Vegas in the first round.
Right. Yeah.
So
Exactly. Which is, congratulations. You're
yeah,
getting a Davis team that just got Thomas Hurdle back. So
right. We don't need to talk about their, cup or not their cap fiasco stuff. We don't need
right,
to
right.
All right, you want to plug anything?
You mentioned how busy Ball Arena is going to be. We've got a story that's going to be coming up in about a week or so here for the start of the playoffs. I had a chance to actually sit and watch the conversion from a Nuggets game to an Avalanche game at Ball Arena till about 2 a.m. So I was a little tired, but happy to be there just to see it in person. Really a impressive, operation, what it takes, the manpower from the conversion crew to the cleaning crew. Talked to a lot of folks and really just sort of looking at Ball Arena as one of the busier arenas in the entire country, coming up for the playoffs with what the expectations are for the Avalanche and Nuggets. So, be out on the lookout for that story in the coming weeks here.
I was trying to think. Boston is probably the other rival to that because they'll have the Celtics and the Bruins expected to go deep.
Yep. Yeah, that'll be a little bit of the research of the piece as well. But yeah, those guys down in Florida, if the Lightning are the Lightning in it? Actually, the Lightning aren't even a playoff
Lightning
team this year,
in that wild card spot.
Yeah, they're in that slot. Okay. They might be doing it with the Heat as well down there in Miami. But yeah, it's a select number of teams and some lucky fan bases who get to keep their cheering going on, late into the summer potentially.
Yep. All right, Kyle, thanks for coming on. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast on Apple or Spotify. Make sure to check out all our Avs coverage from Kyle over at denvergazette.com. And Kyle, we'll be previewing the playoffs next week, and that's exciting. There's nothing like the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yep, can't wait.
All right, thanks.